For years, we have known that the modern day Egyptian has experienced or has pushed out a level of self hate that is one to be looked at in utter disgust when it comes to talking about their blackness. Now, we know when you look on the hieroglyphs of those walls in Egypt, more so in those pyramids, we know exactly what those individuals look like. They look very dark in tone, very tan, to be honest. But some don't feel the same way. The reason I bring that up and you see a picture of Kevin Hart is because Kevin Hart is set to have a comedy tour that is going to be in Cairo, or at least a show there next year in February. And now you have some people who are Egyptian, living in Egypt, who got very upset when Kevin Hart had said that the Egyptians, or at least the ancient Egyptians, were black, which in this case he would be correct. That is pretty accurate based on history. Well, apparently some of those in Egypt do not like history. They like the whitewashed version of it and got very pissed off with Kevin Hart to the point where they are trying to cancel not only his show, but they're trying to cancel him altogether. As you all know, Kevin Hart is not a newcomer when it comes to quote unquote canceling. Remember when he ended up losing his gig to host the Oscars that one year because they dug up a tweet from like 10 years prior about him talking to his son, about homosexuality and this, that, and the third. And they took it and blew it up and made it a huge exaggeration. And then he ended up losing the gig. Well, now it's coming back, but with something different this time. And those over in Egypt are upset. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't even think it's that many people. I think it's just a small few. But the way that they're blowing it out of proportion, they're trying to make it seem like the whole nation is against him, when that's definitely not the case. Now I'm gonna go ahead and read this article that's coming from a website called EgyptianStreets.com that's dated December 19th, 2022. Last week, U.S. comedian Kevin Hart announced that he will be performing in Egypt for the first time on February 21st, 2023. As soon as the tickets went on sale, Egyptians took to social media to attack the world-famous comedian and call for the cancellation of his performance. The calls, which accused Hart of falsifying history, came in response to previous Afrocentric comments that were allegedly made by Hart about ancient Egypt. Although it is unclear when and where Hart made these comments, a viral hashtag was created calling for the cancellation or boycotting of the comedian's Cairo performance. Now listen to that. They said the calls which accused Hart of falsifying history. I'm sorry, let me skip ahead. They said it is unclear when and where Hart made these comments. So they're not even sure if Kevin Hart made these comments, because I'm going to be honest with you. In some of the tweets that I've seen, nowhere has anyone produced a screenshot or a link to when Kevin Hart made these comments. They just kind of popped up out of nowhere. But I'm going to read to you what one of them, or maybe a couple, but I see one on here. One says, "You spread lies about my country and my land. You are not welcome, Kevin Hart. On the land of Egypt, there is no place for thieves and liars on the land of Egyptian civilization." That's a pretty loaded comment. He said he called Kevin Hart a liar and a thief, and you're not allowed on the land of Egypt. I'm trying to figure out, what did he steal? I'm trying to also figure out, what did he lie about? Because let's hypothetically say he did say this, because again, they said, not me, that it's unclear when and where he made these comments. But let's hypothetically say that he did make these comments and they had the concrete proof that he did. Where was the lie? I remember when I did it wasn't a video, but I had spoke about an incident where it was a black man came out of Egypt, like straight up black dude. I think this happened back in the early 80s or the 70s. And he was coming over to America. They was not about to try to let him come over here unless he claimed to be white. Now, mind you, this guy looked like Lionel Richie, even down to the hair. And they tried to make him claim white, something he has never claimed at any point in his life. But they said the only way you're going to come over here to America is if you claim whiteness. I'm sure some self-hating Egyptians, even of that time, would have gladly did it just to come over here. As you can see, the self-hate is global. And you want to know what the irony of this is? Before I go more into the article, the name of Kevin Hart's show is called Reality Check. Go figure. Created by African-American activists, Afrocentrism is a movement that promotes African culture and emphasizes its contribution to the development of Western civilization. It suggests in particular that ancient Egypt's rulers and its population were black, yet that this fact was revised and ultimately wiped from Western and worldwide scholarship. We must teach our children that the true history of black Africans when they were kings in Egypt, and not just an era of slavery that is cemented by education in America. Do you remember the time when we were kings? How ironic they started off. Do you remember the time? Because Michael Jackson's Remember the Time short film was very Egyptian centered. It is a statement that Hart is believed to have said in the past, according to Aram Online. From reactions stating that the actor is not welcome in Egypt to others accusing him of blackwashing, quote unquote, like that's a new one, Egyptian history, the viral hashtags cancel Kevin Hart show have been trending for over a week on Twitter. Someone else says, Kevin, you have angered all Egyptians by adopting lies and propagating false claims made by Afrocentrists that falsely claims that Africans were kings of Egypt. This claim is false. Apologize or face hashtag Kevin Hart is not welcome in Egypt. Anger and backlash. Don't falsify history. The venom that is coming from these individuals, you know what? That's crazy. Not see, it makes you wonder, should Kevin Hart continue to do this show, or should he just go straight up and cancel it? Not because he's facing backlash from these individuals, but because of what they could possibly do to him at this show. I hope he has good security. I hope that security is locked tight. But notice how the people are speaking in absolutes, like they think that they're speaking for all Egyptians. This one, like I said, this one person says, you have angered all Egyptians, as if this one person who I don't know who they are, I don't think they're a president, spoke for every Egyptian in Egypt. Even those outside of the city, Cairo, which I believe is the capital, he's speaking for all of them as if they all have a hive mind. So for Hart, whose performance will take place at the Cairo Indoor Stadium as part of his Reality Check World Tour, has not addressed or commented on the viral hashtags or the reactions that follow his performance announcement. In response to the viral campaign, Zahi Hawass, Egyptologist and Egypt's former Minister of Antiquities, explained that the Africans and the Kush ruled Egypt in the 25th dynasty, 2,000 years after the pyramids were built. Scientifically speaking, Africans have nothing to do with the building of the pyramids, said Hawass. According to Egyptian historians and Egyptologists, race is difficult to ascertain for ancient Egypt. Throughout its millennia of history, the country underwent a series of invasions by its neighbors from the west, modern-day Libya, east Levant, as well as the South Sudan. It is only late in its history that the country was shortly headed by rulers from the Kingdom of Kush, located at the south of Egypt in northern Sudan, although it quickly lost its grasp on the territory to native Egyptian rulers. Until today, the racial profile of ancient Egyptians remains impossible to ascertain, considering the multiple invasions and foreign communities residing in the lands over the years. One study made by the University of Tübingen, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and the Max Planck Institute's researchers revealed that ancient Egyptians shared a genetic profile with Eastern Mediterranean and Anatolian populations. The study's findings are limited, as the extracted DNA was only from 151 mummies from Middle Egypt in the period of 1400 BC to 400 BC. Egyptian history spans for much longer before and after that time period and over a larger territory. So that's the whole article right there. Now, it was one particular tweet that stuck out to me the most out of this, but it wasn't in this article. And it's this one right here. I had to go to another website called MiddleEastEye.net. It says, hashtag Kevin Hart is not welcome in Egypt. You aren't welcome to Egypt. Egyptians aren't Africans. We're the real builders of the civilization, no one else. The Afrocentric is just a lie. They're liars. Egypt is our land and not the Africans. Someone needs to tell this Manya Ihab how to read a map. Because last time I checked, Egypt is in Africa. In the continent, is right there. It's at the top, like the top, more eastern Africa. So I'm trying to figure out how in the world Egypt is not in Africa. It's literally right there, like in Africa, Egypt, Africa. But see, they declared themselves so sovereign, they feel like they are completely separate from everybody else. So you have Egyptians over there who are right now who don't want to claim their blackness, but they have gone through so much colonization over there that their stuff has gotten completely warped out of reality, and they will latch on to whatever they claim. I bet you though, if they was allowed to claim whiteness, they would do it in a heartbeat. I can almost guarantee it, because Asians have done it and still continue to do it. The Latinos, Mexicans, however you want to call it, they have done it and still continue to do it. So why would the modern day Egyptian be any different? Because you got to grasp and latch on to whiteness in order to feel like you have some level of power. And notice all the venom that they have towards Kevin Hart, who we know is a black man. They are upset. They are pissed. But again, I don't see it coming from that many people. And by the way, I looked at the replies section out, all of them, of this particular tweet, and they are grilling the hell out of this person. They are going in the replies and in the quoted tweets. Like, it's amazing when people think that they are actually doing something on Twitter, when they think they're making a point and think people are going to agree with everything that they say. And then they turn the reality of it is they're really not. And people go in on them. And sometimes they end up having to make their mentions, put their mentions on private, or where you can only talk to the person if they're following you back or something to that effect, to keep the volume down of people going in on you for saying something so asinine. So yeah, this person is an example of that. But I really want to point this tweet out. Like I said, I read two other ones, but this is the one right here that was the launch pad for me making this video.